Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we throw our concerns out the window. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including Nintendo repair centers opening back up, nature is healing, and then on Thursday, we're going to rank the Nintendo RPG heroes. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Patrick, so one of the things I've been thinking about a lot recently is do you think that this whole stay-at-home situation is an opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves? Is this like the summer vacation that you don't get as adults, where like when we come back to hanging out with people, that it'll be like the first day of school where we can be whatever we want? Right?
Sure, because there are some people that like you do still see like a fairly regular basis, right? Like I still see you twice a week.
Yes.
But there are other people that I would normally interface with that I just have not seen now in months. Can I just be a different person when they see me? And like, what is the idea that people just be like, oh, all right, cool, or that like what do you want the reaction to be?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. Like, would I want people to be like, I guess Mark was always super slick? Or would I want somebody to be like,
oh, he took the opportunity?
And I guess either one is fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the reaction you really don't want is someone being like, hey, that's not you. Stop that. Unless they see something about it that you don't, and they're correct, and you should not be pretending to be something you're not.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, because you don't really have a chance to like, soft open your new look.
No.
So what if it's horrible?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you: is there something that you are attempting, because we've talked before about like hair, facial hair in particular, is there something that you are contemplating changing about yourself?
No, not really, but it was just like, okay, look, because like I feel like whatever you show up to the first day of work as is like what you are, right? And if you wear anything else ever, somebody will mention it, and it's like, well, actually, is this an opportunity for me to go back to work and like start tucking in my shirt? Like, will people have forgotten that I never tucked it in?
Let's not go nuts. We're not going to start tucking in shirts, Mark. Speaking of tucked in shirts, my copy of Sonic Forces, would you like to borrow it? Someday maybe you can, when I want to go into a post office. All you got to do is get on the Sonic Forces Borrowing Program mailing list by emailing us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and giving us a mailing address that you can send it to me. That I can send it to you. Look, everything's topsy-turvy right now. No one knows what's going on. The program is experiencing a hiatus at the moment. Someday it will return, right? When it does, I will contact who is next on the list and send them my copy of this game to play for as long as they want, and then they can send it back. Just a little reminder that the game is, of course, on sale on the eShop. The game is $10, which is about how much it costs to send it to you and then give you the postage to send it back to me. But I'm not telling you what to do. If you want to borrow my copy of the game, you are welcome to it.
And of course, thank you to everybody who has been adding us as friends on Switch. It's, I think at this point, Patrick, we decided we're pushing 200, and we would love to break that like 200 friend barrier.
Yeah, and it's super easy to do. All you got to do is look in the description of any episode and any episode of this show, and you will see our friend codes, and you can add us. We accept every single friend request.
But that shouldn't make you feel less special.
No, absolutely not. Look, I know that we're like, I got 200 friends. We want more. We are insatiable. So keep it coming. Every single one makes me happy. Mark, we got a question emailed to us from Jason. Jason writes, "Hey guys, I thought asking a couple Californians would be my best bet in answering this question. Do you have any tips for playing the Switch outside in the sun? If I could work on my tan and play some games at the same time, life would be pretty much perfect. Thanks. Keep up the awesome content." Jason.
Jason, I'm a terrible Californian to ask this to. I've never tried to play my Switch outside.
Yeah, it is tough. I don't know that I've ever tried to do it like just outside. I've done on like buses and trains, and if that train is outside and it is a sunny day, it's kind of a wash, right? Like I turn the brightness all the way up. That's one thing. Turn the brightness all the way up. It'll suck your battery dry, but like you need to. And then like I think you gotta just like find a shady spot for that thing to be. Maybe that means like an umbrella in the sand or something along those lines. But really, I don't think there's a good workaround for this.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I wish I had better news, Jason.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, you chose to ask the two pastiest Californians. And so that's the answer you get. All right, Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. After talking about it a little bit, I went back and dug into Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. I have run my 3DS battery to the flashing red light twice this last week. So that means I probably put in, I don't know, like 6 or 7 hours of Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. And it is a fine, cute, fun game. I'm glad the quality of animation and like the character redesigns on this thing. I'm playing the 3DS version that came out just a couple years ago, and like everything looks great, and I'm frequently like hit by how good and how expressive the characters are. And I've just been having a super fun time, and especially as we're talking about RPG heroes, I made briefly made the case that maybe Bowser could be considered the protagonist of Bowser's Inside Story. I think that more and more he is a monster, and he's driven by a lust for power and just good old fashioned gluttony. But I love him, and playing as Bowser gives you all the coolest moments in that game. There's a point in the game where you turn your 3DS sideways and hold it in book mode, and he's like boxing a robotic castle. It's awesome.
We were talking last week about Origami King, the new Paper Mario game that's coming out in July, and with all the coverage around the reveal of that game, people have been talking about the Mario and Luigi series and how it is like similar in tone. Like a lot of the stuff that people like about Paper Mario is in the Mario and Luigi series, and it made me like interested in digging out my 3DS and playing Dream Team, which came with my Year of Luigi 3DS XL when I bought it way back in the day. And because I feel kind of silly like wanting like a new Paper Mario game and having like a very similar series potentially just like out there available to me.
Yeah, and like a couple of them too, right? Because like on the 3DS alone, there's Dream Team, there's Paper Jam, which is the crossover with Paper Mario. There's Bowser's Inside Story, the remake, and the Superstar Saga remake. And if you wanted to go nuts, you could grab Partners in Time on the DS and play it on your 3DS, which I had an idle curiosity about. Was like, oh, could I do that? Would it be fun to like complete the collection here? DS carts of Partners in Time will run you about $100 at this point in time. Yeah, I guess they are hard to come by. Do you think you'll take the leap and like jump into Dream Team? Probably not.
Probably not. Probably not. But like, boy, would it be a good idea if I did.
Mm. I'll tell you what is also a good idea, and has just been put on your Switch by Magic. The Among the SNES Switch Online games that were new last week is a game called Panel de Pon, which had never been released in North America before, and it is basically just Tetris Attack, where there are tiles and they like scroll up, so you get like new tiles from the bottom, and all you can do are like flip the position of two horizontal tiles, and you're trying to match three in a row, and then they go away. I love this game. I started playing it a ton yesterday, and have gotten more into it today, and it's just super fun, and it's there. It's just sitting there. With so many of the games that they add to these libraries, the NES Switch Online and the SNES Switch Online are like the forgettable ones, right? Like they start with the heavy hitters, and then there's like some kind of garbage that goes on later. This is not that. This is a genuinely like good game that is totally worth your time, and you didn't have an opportunity to play it before unless you lived in Japan.
Now, you've been doing some house cleaning of the NES and SNES Switch Online like home screens, right?
Yes. And I posed this question on Twitter. How do you organize your NES Switch Online library? Do you?
Yeah, I don't right now. It's a complete mess. But then after like seeing how you organized yours, I feel so
Hmm.
inspired. It's like, yes, like this makes sense. It's like somebody Marie Kondoed, like my world.
Because there's so much, and every single game is a separate icon. Every SP version of a game is a separate icon. And then there are a ton of games that you're just never gonna play. So like I made the decision to put the Mario 1, Mario 2, Mario 3 right at the top, and just they're the only things on the line, which means that all the icons are huge. The fewer games you put on an individual line, the bigger their images are, right? Because they don't have to share as much space. So Mario 1, 2, 3, perfect, right? Next line is like adventure games, right? So I got like Zelda 1, Zelda 2, I think Star Tropics is on there, Metroid, and something else. But like just kind of went through and like made categories, and games that were more important to me I put in a row with only like four other games. And then I used the Lost Levels and the Versus Excite Bike, which are in those like weird Famicom box art. Like their icons are wider, whatever. I used just the two of them as sort of a line break, so that you have this big visual divide between the games I'm actually gonna play and like all the garbage. Like I'm never gonna play volleyball, like it's just never gonna happen. Or Super Spike V-Ball, I think is the name of the game. Volleyball, I put up with the rest of the black box games. They're all like clustered together. But it felt really good to like impose some order on that madness, because by default it just puts the new ones in a new row together at the top. So you've got all of these games, which I've already said are largely trash, at the top.
Yeah, no, I really like this. And the thing I like about it is that like using your system, right? The Patrick Eller's organization system, it
Yes,
still leaves a
TM.
lot of room for like improvisation, right? Like
Yes.
your lines of garbage are going to be different from everybody else's lines of garbage.
Hmm.
But the fact that like there is a line of garbage, it's like a thin line of garbage that is just separating those home screens from like complete chaos.
Yeah. So if you want to check out what I did, you can check it out. I have it up on my Twitter at Patrick_Ellers. Mark, what about you? What have you been playing?
Well, so I picked up Monster Prom. I had pre-ordered it, and then it unlocked like last Thursday, and I spent some time this past weekend playing it. I You were 100% right. Like this game is so much fun.
Yeah.
It does have online. I have just been playing it by myself, which has been completely fun. One of the things that surprised me is that the writing is really good, but it's also, I at least anyways am finding it very challenging to like successfully woo one of the monsters, because like
Yes.
there are at the beginning of like the 3 week period or 6 week period, if depending if you're playing like a short round or a full one, um it's like sometimes a lot of times it's very obvious which one you should choose in order to like win points with that person. But then
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, I have absolutely no idea which one is like the correct answer here, and you choose it and it turns out not to be, or like you get to the end, and I guess I won't like spoil specific endings, but you're like, like that didn't exactly work out the way I thought it was going to, even though I did like everything that like I should have in order to like get them to go to the prom
Yeah.
with me. Yeah, I'm finding it to be a lot of fun. Although the first couple of rounds, or the first couple of like games, I did like one long one, then just shorter ones, and I feel like I needed a couple of them under my belt before I like really felt comfortable with like understanding, because it's a fairly simple game, but like
It
to get a hang
appears
of
to
the
be a simple
mechanics.
game.
Yeah, yeah.
It appears to be simple, but there is like a whole stats based thing happening under it, where it also even like shows you the stats. But like, I think a lot of the you making choices about like how you're going to like woo someone or approach a problem, it'll check then against your stat that would be like related to that action, and if your stat is too low, then you fail at doing it. So sometimes something that seems like the right choice, sometimes you'll be presented with two right choices, and if you don't have high enough stats to support either choice, then you fail no matter what.
Yeah, it took me like 3 or 4 times before I finally got one time where I got like a semi happy ending. I don't think I've gotten like a full straight up just like, yep, you're going to the prom, everything's great type ending yet.
The last time I played with previous guests, Kelly Nugent and Ryan Mogi, and Kelly successfully took her monster friend to the prom, and Ryan and I did not. We got like dumped hard, and I was romancing the robot man, the computer who is a man, and I even met his parents. And like that went well, and he still didn't want to go with me to the prom.
I feel
Very
like
disappointing.
yeah, I feel like a lot of it comes down to that like crucial like final date before you
Yeah.
go, if you even get that far, because sometimes, like things go horribly wrong earlier than that. But yeah, that's been a lot of fun.
Also, you mentioned that you pre-ordered Monster Prom. I would like to just have it now on the record that I have also done the same with Xenoblade, the definitive edition. So when that game pops on Friday, I'm going to jump into it. I'm going to give it a real try, and we'll see if this is the Xenoblade game that sticks for me.
I've also been playing Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe. I know that I've like talked about this game for the past couple of weeks, but the more time that I'm putting into it, and like I'm going pretty slow because I'm trying to get all 3 coins in every single level, and I just realized that I'd been missing like secret exits, and so there were like
Yeah.
coins that I had to like go back and get. Man, like I am really, really impressed with this game. Like I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I have, but like if you're just trying to get through the levels, it's fairly simple, but like trying to get all 3 coins, some of them are really challenging.
Yeah, yeah, and there's just it is definitely a game that has more like it appears very shallow, right? And then there's just like a lot more as you scrape away at it, it just reveals so much more. We have a question, sort of New Super Mario's U, adjacent, from Colin. Colin writes, "Dear Patrick and Mark, I accidentally deleted my save file of New Super Mario Bros. U. I am in a serious funk. My birthday is just around the corner, and I need something to play instead of New Super Mario Bros. U. Do you have any ideas for games I should ask for that make people just feel good playing them?" Mark, do you have anything come to mind right away? Games that just feel good to play.
Hmm. I can't think of anything offhand, which is so weird. Um,
I'm gonna say Tropical Freeze,
okay.
Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. It has obviously more challenging. It is a more challenging platformer than New Super Mario Bros. U. But if you want to take the game at a little bit easier pace, the Switch version does have Funky Mode, so you can play as Funky Kong and sort of just like skate through the levels a little bit more easily.
Do you know what I'm gonna recommend? I've been actually thinking about it because I was going through like all the games that I have on my Switch and was like, removing some of them to make room on my SD card. And one of them that I like was way down, but also I think happens to be on sale with Sonic Forces is Sonic Mania. If
Yeah.
you have not, Colin, if you haven't played Sonic Mania before, even if you're not a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, because I had never really played one of these games before Sonic Mania, like that, it was such a like revelation to me. I really, really liked Sonic Mania, and I was like, yeah, I should keep this on my Switch because I love the idea of just being able to go back to it and play. Like the music is awesome. The levels are really fun. There's a couple of them that you're like, oh boy, this is a little bit of a bummer, but you can usually get through it pretty easily. Um, I had trouble with like the boss battles, but I think they fixed with some of the updates, like the save points, so it's less. It's a little bit more forgiving than it was when it originally released. Like, yeah, that's a game that's definitely worth spending time with if you haven't already.
Also, we just talked about a bunch of Super Nintendo games that are available on your Switch that are super fun. I would say if you just give yourself permission to find it fun, play Star Fox. You can. That is a great way to spend 45 minutes at a shot and just have fun. Also, Yoshi's Crafted World, a totally underrated game for the Switch and super fun to play with a second person there. Not super challenging, but just like New Super Mario Brothers U, reveals more as you like decide to take the game seriously and like find everything in every level.
Yeah, I mean, also going way back, I totally recommend Golf Story. If like it's like a really cute 16-bit looking golf RPG that again, I have no interest in golf games, but the writing is super fun. It's almost like a puzzle game a little bit. Like I enjoyed that one a lot. Also, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. Actually, I have lots of recommendations for chill games, I guess.
Yeah, and if you're into Picross, like pick up that Murder by Numbers. It'll when you want to just like do a bunch of Picross puzzles, they're there for you. When you want to do the like more murder mystery aspect of it, you can spend some time on that. We just did like 10 good recommendations. So good luck, Colin. Sorry that you're bummed, and happy birthday. Mark, one last thing to touch on before we move out of what we've been playing this week. Sarah, my girlfriend, has now discovered properly Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Which I'm very excited for because I thought that this would be a game that she would really like.
Yeah,
but it seemed like
and
she
it
only
is.
dabbled with it in the beginning. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, in the beginning, which was maybe like 5 or 6 days in for me, she started it up and got her tent and like got to the island and was like, okay, what now? And I'm like, whatever you want. And she was like, nah. And so since the game came out, I have been sending her things just all the time. Whenever I see something in the store that I don't want, but I have the bells and it's like a big dumb thing, I send it to her. So the other day, I guess on Saturday, I was like, I've been sending you stuff. Like, you should really go and open your mailbox. So she went in, still a tent, right? There's been a tent sitting on on my island, which I now have to refer to as our island, of course. Yeah, that sort of started something pretty intense, and she's been playing like 3 to 4 hours a day every day since. It's nice long weekend, so like she's had the time to do it, and it's just been cool to see someone else like discovering it in real time. The island is obviously already done, and like there are neighbors there already, but like I forget what it's like to not have all of the DIY recipes to do all the things that you need to do right away. And all that kind of stuff. It's cool to see her experiencing all of that.
Yeah, I'm curious because the island is so like refined at this point. Like, what is she doing in the game?
Well, so I have never progressed past the point of 3 stars, partially because I don't really like just like scattering stuff all over the island,
Mm-hmm.
and also because like I like having trees. But she's been like decorating individual areas of the island, obviously decorating her house and paying off the loans. And then just like building the relationships with the villagers. She's basically just playing it like a regular Animal Crossing game that isn't New Horizons, right? Um, we've also been spending a little bit of time playing it together, so where you can call another resident to play with you. And it basically means that whoever is the leader is basically the person who's like in charge of what's happening. The other person can only use their items and pick stuff up, but anything that you pick up just goes right to the recycle bin. Um, but changing who's the leader is super easy. The person who's the leader just shakes their controller, and then the other person pushes A, and then like it just reverses. So like she'll be playing, and I'm like, oh, I wanted to like hop in and do something. She'll like quick add me. We'll run around together for a little while. I'll help her chop wood or whatever, and then make me the leader. I'll go do my thing, and then make her the leader, and then just like back her up. It's I have not heard anyone really speak highly of the local multiplayer experience. But considering what Animal Crossing is, like, it's actually really good.
That's great. I'm really glad that she's like discovered it and is enjoying it.
Yeah, me too. If for no other reason than I was sick of having a tent on my island. Everyone else is living in houses. All right, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
Today, May 26th, Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath DLC is released. This is the one that includes RoboCop.
Yeah.
Also,
and a bunch of new like story modes.
right. That's actually probably the more important
it's
part.
Not just RoboCop.
Yeah. And then Minecraft Dungeons is released on the Switch eShop. On Thursday, May 28th, Shantae and the Seven Sirens is released. I was thinking about this. I've never heard this pronounced. I've always said it Shantae, but do you think it's Shanty or Shantae, like sea shanty? Like, is it a pun?
It may be a pun, but she's a genie, right?
Right.
So, like, why would it be related to sea shanties?
I understand. Actually, that's
I understand this one is the Seven Sirens. So,
question.
Like, seven implies seas, as does sirens, but the previous ones have genie hero.
Yeah, there might be one that's like based around pirates. I don't know why I associate this with like seafaring. I've never played this series. I have no idea. And then on Friday, of course, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition unlocks on Patrick's Switch. But also
and available for everyone else to purchase as well.
That's right. And then also it's a 2K extravaganza, Borderlands Legendary Collection, and all of the individual Borderland games are available for purchase either in the collection or individually. BioShock the Collection is released, and also the games individually on the eShop. The physical version of that, by the way, requires 31 gigabyte download. So,
which is enormous. I was clearing up my my SD card to get Xenoblade on there, and that's obviously the whole game because I'm just downloading it, and I only needed 12 gigabytes. So the information not on the BioShock collection is like 3 times the size of the entirety of Xenoblade.
And then the XCOM 2 collection, also from 2K Games, is released on Friday. I think I'm not going to get Xenoblade. I think I'm going to get BioShock, like the collection, but maybe not at launch. I think I might wait for a sale because next week, I was looking at like the releases coming up, and there's actually like quite a bit that I want to get. Like in June, like a week from Friday, The Outer Worlds is released on Switch. And I want to pick that up. And then I'm assuming that's going to like occupy me for those 4 weeks or 5 weeks between that game releasing and then the Origami King released in July. And then there's like some other smaller things that I want to pick up. So it feels like to me, especially with how many gigabytes it's apparently going to take for me to get it. And I know that I wouldn't play it immediately. I want to get the BioShock collection, but I think I'll probably wait till it goes on sale.
Is there so you are interested in playing all of them equally, or is there like one in the series that you're more like, would that be a solution for you, is just get one of them?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like when I bought like Skyrim for Switch. It's like I don't even know that I intend to ever play them, but I like the idea of
Right.
having them.
Yeah. I mean, I think that will end up being me with Xenoblade. And just a point of clarification. I know this was implied in what you said, but the Borderlands Legendary Collection does not is Borderlands 2, Borderlands the prequel, and I get wait, hold on. Yeah, Borderlands 2, and then the prequel. Sorry, there are a lot of just like colons in the list of games that are listed here. So not Borderlands 3, if that is
right.
a game that you are interested in or excited about because you heard about it somewhere else. Not available on Switch, not part of this collection. So just heads up on that. Okay, Mark, are you ready to get out of this segment? Now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, you've been watching The Simpsons a lot lately. So we are going to talk about our favorite Simpsons episodes. Do you have a go-to favorite? When someone says favorite Simpsons episode, do you have one?
No, I don't really have like one specific one that stands out because every time I like start thinking about it, it's like kind of choosing my favorite type of cereal. It's like, but I like them for so many different reasons.
What? It's cereal. You like it for one reason. It's easy. I guess it's two reasons. It's easy and it tastes good.
But they all taste good in so many different ways. I really like Homer at the bat. Homer at the bat.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably like one of my go-to ones, but it is like so gimmicky, right? Like it's not like your normal like run-of-the-mill Simpsons episode.
That is interesting because one of my favorite episode, my go-to favorite episode, is also a sports episode, but I do not consider you and I to be big sportos, and me least of which.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not like baseball or like obscure baseball history.
Right.
And like I recognize a lot of the names of the players, but at this point, it's like 30 years old, maybe like 25 years old.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like because I think that's a season 3 episode, right? Or 4?
Is it that early? Yeah,
really
it might
early.
be like, it's pretty early.
My favorite, and I understand you don't really care for Lisa episodes, but my favorite episode is Lisa on Ice. It is the one where Lisa and Bart are both doing pee-wee hockey, and Lisa's doing it because she doesn't want to fail gym class.
Mm-hmm.
That like sibling moment at the end where they decide not to like face off against each other, and they do like the quick little like flashes of them being nice to each other, and when Lisa loses her little bit of ice cream off her ice cream cone and Bart like moves a scoop of ice cream from his to hers, gets me every time. I love it dearly. Do you have other runner-ups of like your favorite episodes?
Well, I wanted to talk about Lisa on Ice because I do really like that episode, and I think it's like I haven't watched a lot of modern Simpsons, and with all of it being on Disney Plus, I keep talking about like, oh, maybe I'll just like kind of slowly work my way through the entire thing. But,
it's tough.
But one of the things that I really like, I feel like they nailed in early Simpsons episodes, and like I'm in season 8 right now, and occasionally they're still hitting those highs. But like Homer's really stupid, but like the characters, like they love each other, and like you can tell that like the show takes that relationship seriously at that point, and I feel like that's really what makes like the Simpsons stand out when it's at its best.
Yeah, 100%. There is it's either like a season 10 or 11. There's an episode where Homer starts like a a daycare thing. And there's a joke where like he's being honored, and there's like a video playing, and Bart and Lisa have spliced in footage of him being like a negligent monster. And one of the things, one of the jokes, is it's Homer chasing Bart with like a mace, and he's spinning it around, and he goes, "I'll mace you good," and Homer goes, "That's taken completely out of context." Which is funny, but it's also like to like grapple with the reality that Homer is chasing his son with medieval weaponry, threatening to hit him with it, is tough. It's tough.
I really like Bart Gets Famous.
Yep. Yeah, Bart Gets Famous is great. I didn't do it.
Yeah, any of the oh man, what is that guy's name? John Swartz something.
Schwartzwelder.
Yeah. Pretty much any episode he has written, I really like.
Yeah, the Schwartzwelder episodes are all good, and they all have like a certain like sort of chaotic energy to them, where it's just like you don't really have a handle. Oh, well, I guess we'll never know. We were accompanied today by the GVSU New Music Ensemble. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
So, after being closed for a while, Nintendo has started to reopen some of their repair centers throughout North America. They were closed, of course, due to COVID-19. So, for a long while, all repair requests were put on hold, including those, with dealing with Joy-Con drift, which, Patrick, I understand that you tracked down a pair of Joy-Con, and you didn't have to pay, like, an exorbitant overhead fee for it.
So this is all true. I was complaining on this show maybe a week or two ago that my Joy-Con, the one of them has been experiencing drift for like, I don't know, 8 or 9 months at this point. And then the gyroscope in the other one stopped working, stopped reading entirely. So I went on GameStop's website, and they had the set of orange and purple ones at like normal market price. And I have been to their website before and not seen that available. So I was like, I'm just gonna see if this works. Because we're in an age now where just because you place an order for something online doesn't mean you're actually going to get it. And then they were like, "Yep, be shipping it by the end of the week," and I was like, "All right, well, we'll see." And then they showed up.
Yeah, and based on the pictures, that's a good-looking pair of Joy-Con. I'm curious if
Thank you.
That was like a color that you were interested in, or was it just what was available?
Mark, it's just what was available. But I also I would have accepted just the gray Joy-Con because that's what I have normally. It's just the gray, and I would have accepted that if that's what was available. But I was sort of hoping I could get colors, and I guess I hadn't really put much thought into what colors I would want. And even now, like, the yellow would be fun. The Splatoon colors would be fun. The Mario red would be really cool. But I think that's it. I think like the Mario red would probably just be like my preferred. But really any color scheme is kind of exciting.
Yeah, I had when I first bought my Switch, I had the regular gray one, and I thought that's what I would want. And then when I had to get a new Joy-Con, I got like the neon green and neon like pink ones. And having like I speaking of The Simpsons, I totally felt like Marge Simpson when I got those, because I was like, oh, this is fun. What a like nice like dollop of fun on my Switch.
Yeah. It's also obviously I haven't used new Joy-Cons since I bought my Switch originally. So it's neat to just hold Joy-Con that aren't covered in hand grease.
There is something about like the almost like stiffness of a new controller where you're like, oh right, like the joysticks and the buttons like weren't always like this loose.
Yes. Yeah, and in particular the like lock that holds them either onto the Switch or onto the Joy-Con grip. I have to like really push the button to release them before sliding it out. My old Joy-Cons, I can just like pull up a little bit harder than normal and they just come right out.
I actually can't. I can't tell if it's just like this is how my Switch has always been. or just like with time and the Joy-Con like rails getting worn down, like it's become a little bit worse. But last night I was playing New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe in bed, and like Clement was falling asleep, and it was like it sounded so uh like it creaking, like the creaking of like the Joy-Con when you're playing it in
Amazing.
handheld mode. It's like living in a haunted house. You're like, this can't possibly like be right. But if you're going to send in your Joy-Con for anything at all for repair at Nintendo's repair shops, definitely check out the FAQ on Nintendo Support's website for more information and any like delays that you should expect. Hardware en route to Nintendo or currently at the repair center will, of course, be given priority, and repair tickets and the shipping labels associated with them remain active for 180 days. So if you had requested a repair before like all hell broke loose, there's a good chance that your shipping label and all that is still valid.
And for Joy-Con repairs, it happens frequently enough that you can apply for the thing just online. Again, go to the Nintendo support website, and then there's just you don't even have to interface with real human being. I checked it out today because I was like, look, I just got new Joy-Cons, but if I could have 2 sets of functional Joy-Cons, forget about it.
Lego revealed some new sets for use with the Lego Super Mario. But instead of levels, the new sets represent power-ups.
Which is an interesting little wrinkle that now, and it stands to reason that they wouldn't show us everything when they reveal the thing. But it's, I don't know, it feels a little gross to me that each one of these sets is another $10. And they're selling 4 of them. So like, I don't know. The whole thing adds up real fast.
Yeah, totally. I also think it's interesting the ones that they've chosen. So you get Builder Mario from like representing Super Mario Maker 2, Cat Mario representing Super Mario 3D World, Propeller Hat Mario representing New Super Mario Brothers, which I guess makes sense. I don't really know. The only other one I could think you might do is the squirrel suit.
Oh, from New Super Mario?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Fire Mario, not necessarily repping a specific franchise because it's everywhere.
Yeah. I think it's a little weird that there's no Tanuki tail. And like ears on the hat. Like that seems like such an iconic Mario that like it's weird that it's not in this lineup, but the propeller hat is.
Yeah, but I wonder if like Fire Mario is kind of okay. First, I was gonna say that maybe Tanuki Mario is kind of like retro, and they're just letting Fire Mario be the representative of like all
Sure.
like Mario, but like Tanuki Mario, maybe it originated in Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES, but like at this point, it's pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I mean it too is in New Super Mario or Super Mario 3D World. I don't think it's in New Super Mario Brothers. I may have been wrong in that. But yeah, I mean it's also kind of crazy that Cat Mario is in there. Cuz like yeah, it's Super Mario 3D World and we did rank it as the best Mario power up of all time with Christian Humes. Check out that episode if you don't believe me. But it's trapped in that game, right? Which is a Wii U exclusive at this point.
At this point, but of course, like rumors point to it coming to Switch, possibly later this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that like I feel like this Lego Super Mario thing, I still don't really know what to make of it. Like even with these power packs, like you said, like the base thing is what, like $70 or something like that. Like I know that Lego has like a very broad audience, so it's not necessarily just for kids. But personally, I just don't understand the appeal of this at like that price point.
Yeah, and I also like I don't know why you wouldn't have some of the power-ups, and I guess it's because you can sell them, but why you wouldn't pack in at least some of the power-ups with the starter set, right? That like you would be able to, because otherwise you're just Mario the whole. I don't know. The whole thing feels like you're limiting the Mario experience behind being able to buy like all these other sets. And like no matter what, you're not going to have the satisfaction of making Mario run and jump because it's not a video game. So I don't know. It feels like there are too many barriers to having a complete Mario experience. And then even that is going to be pretty limited.
Do you remember Skatebird? It was in like one of the most recent Nindy showcases, and it's a skateboarding game where you're like the things who are skateboarding are birds. They're like skating around on tech deck, basically.
Yeah, tiny little bird skating around on a tiny little skateboard. It looks adorable.
The game has recently been delayed to 2021. Developer Glass Bottom Games made the announcement on their Kickstarter. They assured fans that everything is fine and the game is appropriately funded through launch. But the post did mention that they are adding a full story mode, but that their productivity is down because, quote, because of, everything outside right now. So understandable, this is yet another game that has been hit by COVID-19 related delays.
Yeah, it's cute. The post doesn't really indicate that like they're restricted in any like physical way by the pandemic or by the sort of like shutdown of everything, but that they're just like, yeah, it's everyone's productivity has been cut in half because no one knows how to manage their like it's very refreshing just to be like, I don't know, we're adding a story mode, it's gonna take us a little while.
Speaking of skating games, I think it was last week that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, like the remastered or remakes, were announced for other platforms, not coming to Switch at this point, which
not coming to Switch.
To me was like a little bit of a bummer, but I think I might be an outlier in that I associate those games with the Nintendo 64 because like that's the platform I played them on, but I think most people probably played it on a PlayStation, so like it makes sense that it would come to PlayStation and not necessarily to the Switch.
Did you at one point pitch like Tony Hawk as a possible character for Smash?
I think I did, yeah. Yes.
Okay, good.
Hey, we got some new NPD info talking about sales of video games in the United States for April and year-to-date, including year-to-date dollar sales of the Nintendo Switch are the highest for any hardware platform in the U.S. ever. This beats the Wii's record-setting, or the record that they set in April 2009. So basically what this is saying is that from like January of a year through April of a year, previously the Wii had sold the most hardware by revenue ever, and now the Switch has beat the Wii to claim that title.
Which awesome. It's a little bit of a weird window, right? The January 1 to April 1, because it's not the holiday season, and it's not like the summertime. And you can't really say that this was spurred on by Animal Crossing, right? Like, probably in some part. But that game didn't come out till the end of March, right? Like the 20th or something.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I guess, I don't know. I mean, it's just the Switch is having kind of like an incredible year. And it feels like the all the stay-at-home orders and just like the pandemic in general has kind of boosted video game sales across the board. So it'll be interesting to see like if supply can get worked out, like actually what does this mean for like the Nintendo Switch, but also for the PlayStation 5 and like all that kind of stuff. Like, is it like as people get back to their regular lives in the coming months, does this like demand for video games like dip? And so like does this totally mess with like demand cycle? Basically, like it's like, is this Christmas actually not like huge because a ton of people ended up buying in March? Like, I don't know, it'll just be interesting to see what kind of long-term effect this sudden increase has.
Yeah, well, because there's also something to suggest that gaming begets more gaming, right? That like someone gets a Switch for Animal Crossing, they play Animal Crossing, and then after a couple weeks or a couple months, they're like, "What else can this thing do?" And obviously there are some huge heavy hitters that came out in the first year, Splatoon 2. Zelda, Mario Odyssey, like great games, and then Nintendo kind of had a baller year last year as far as game releases are concerned. I know like we tend to kind of like gloss over it because they're all like um kind of like mid-tier games that are just like good versions of the mid-tier games, but like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, Fire Emblem, Three Houses, Luigi's Mansion, Link's Awakening, uh like there Pokemon, there were a ton of games that came out last year. Dragon Quest 11s Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition, games that may have like gone either like unnoticed or not unnoticed necessarily, but not given the like proper mainstream due, just because not everyone in the world had a Switch, and I think that is kind of starting to change. Like, I've been getting text updates from Matt Acevedo because he's finally gotten around to playing Dragon Quest, and I had bugged him for so long to like start playing, and he is now, and he loves it. So like, I mean, I think that's going to be a regular story. Is people are going to start putting in these games from the last year, and realizing that they're great.
We also got to look at the top 10 best-selling Switch games for April 2020. And the NPD just tracks like physical sales. This doesn't include any digital sales. No surprise, Animal Crossing New Horizons is number one. Probably the one that surprised me the most is Trials of Mana broke the top 10 at number 9.
Yeah. Yeah, that is surprising. I wish we had like actual numbers for that, because I would be interested to see like exactly how many copies that represents. It is cool that like everything on this list is Nintendo, with the exception of Trials of Mana, which is of course Square Enix, and Just Dance 2020, which is Ubisoft.
And then for the top 10 best-selling games year to date for 2020, Animal Crossing New Horizons is in second place, which is kind of nuts. Just behind Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Which again, it should be noted that Nintendo is not. This does not include digital sales of Nintendo. That's physical sales of Animal Crossing versus all sales of Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
And we know that digital sales of Animal Crossing worldwide were like 50% of like sales. And so none of that is tracked here. And it's possible that that number is higher, in the US than it is in other regions.
Yeah.
So yeah, Animal Crossing doing insanely good.
A behemoth. Also in the top 10 best-selling games year to date, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is number 10. So
Yeah.
like that's another one hanging strong.
That's nuts. That game is just like continues to be a juggernaut.
It's a 3-year-old game.
It's like a remake, and it's even older than that.
Yes.
In some respects. In last week's issue of Famitsu, Xenoblade Chronicles director Tetsuya Takahashi explained why the future connected epilogue adventure was created for the definitive edition that releases Friday. Takahashi said, quote, "It's because we felt bad for Malia. I'm only half joking when I say that. With Future Connected, we're able to draw in those who've already played Xenoblade Chronicles. Moreover, there's details there that connect to the future of Xenoblade. So we created it for 2.5 reasons. Another rationale being we had an unused map from the main game, the Bayonetta shoulder, which was appropriate for the setting."
So basically, that it wasn't something that came out of nowhere, right? That like they had some assets or like some areas, and I don't know who or what Malia is, but I'm looking forward to discovering what it is and why they would feel bad for her. I guess possibly spoilers for Xenoblade. We don't know,
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting that it feels like either unfinished business. It feels purposeful, right? It doesn't sound like they were like, oh yeah, we just wanted to add something extra and fun for the definitive edition. It seems like they had work to do.
Totally, especially when he says there's details that connect to the future of Xenoblade. it's like, it's no surprise that there's going to be some future to Xenoblade. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 sold extremely well. They're obviously reintroducing the beginning of the series to fans. So we know that man, why am I blanking on this company's name? I was gonna say BioWare, but it's not. It's
No,
Monolith Soft.
there you go.
Yeah, so we know the Monolith Soft is working on at least one new game. So it'll be interesting to see like how this ties in, or if they're gonna do like a Bravely Default thing where it's a different franchise next, but then they'll get back to Xenoblade eventually.
Oh, the Bravely series. I just got momentarily mad that they have Bravely Default, Bravely Second, and then Bravely Default 2.
Well, I meant more than like Octopath Traveler kind of like broke up those releases.
I'm still mad.
Also, the future connected, kind of like, I don't even know what you would call it, but like new content can be accessed at any time. You don't have to beat the game or anything in order to get there. And then Takahashi estimates that Future Connected will take between 10 and 12 hours to complete. But if you're doing everything in it, like all the side quests, then it could take as long as 20 hours. Also,
which is an enormous amount of content. Right?
It's a whole new game.
Yeah, exactly. And I understand that by Xenoblade Chronicles standards, it's not a whole new game. But like, I mean, if it were a Resident Evil game, that's like 3 new Resident Evil games.
And then also planning for the remake goes back to the end of 2017. He says that development of the definitive edition was happening simultaneously with Torna the Golden Country, which was like the DLC expansion that was released for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but was also like kind of just its own standalone story.
Yeah.
That you didn't need to have the base game in order to play. And not only was it being developed with Torn of the Golden Country, but also with a yet to be announced third project, which, like you were saying, it definitely feels like they're teeing up, whatever's next.
Yeah. So I am really hoping that this one hooks me, because it seems like there is a first of all, I know in any Xenoblade game there's simply a lot there, but it seems like now there is a lot to experience beyond this game, and that there will be more in the future. Like, there is a lot of steam behind this, and I'm just I'm interested to see if it'll like catch on in a real way.
Yeah, one of the things that I think will be interesting to see is because like it's like Xenoblade Chronicles is a Wii game, right? So this is a remaster, and they've obviously done some graphical work, but I wonder what the limits of that are, because you're talking about like an SD game that was released, like that was built for hardware that at this point is like so many generations old. I just wonder how it holds up to like modern standards.
Yeah, I mean, and I think there's probably something where like how much it holds up to modern standards versus how much the Switch can handle in the first place. Like, I imagine that, well, I don't know. I'm not gonna speculate, I guess, but like I've seen so many like comparison videos. I mentioned this last week of the original graphics to the new ones, and like all of the character models have been completely redone. The art, like, so much so that the art style appears to be different.
Well, I guess like I brought up the art style and like having to take SD assets, but I mean even more just like gameplay wise, like quality of life wise,
sure.
Like taking a game from 2 eras ago and how will it hold up compared to like the modern, I don't know, like niceties. It'll be interesting to see. During an interview with VGC, Platinum Games' Hideki Kamiya was asked about the status of Bayonetta 3, specifically whether or not the game had been canceled. The game was announced back at the Game Awards in 2017, and they've been asked about it, and they've commented basically like, yeah, it's in the works in the past, but it has been a long stretch, since we've heard anything about the game. So that has led to some loose speculation that maybe the game had been canceled.
Yeah, well, and especially like just knowing what we know about like I feel like Metroid Prime 4 gets put in the same box too, where it's like it's a game that was introduced with just a logo, is a new entry in a beloved series, and we know nothing about it. And then like one day Nintendo's like, we scrapped what we were doing and we're starting a whole new Metroid Prime 4. And so like just to not have even that kind of any sort of update on Bayonetta 3 has, left people wondering.
Yeah, I guess like on the one hand, I totally understand people wanting like more news and updates on it. But also, like in a world where nobody knew this Paper Mario Origami King game was even being made.
Right.
And then it's being released in like 8 weeks from its announcement. Like it doesn't shock me, or really like Fire Emblem Sharp FE, right? Or whatever it was called.
Right,
Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was a game that was on Nintendo's when they would have their financial updates, and on like their PDF, they would have this like Fire Emblem cross Shin Megami Tensei game that was on there years and years and years, and you never got any update, and then one day they're just like, here it is. So it doesn't like totally shock me that we're not getting like blow by blow updates on what's happening with Bayonetta 3, but Kamiya wants us to know that it's coming. He assured the interviewer that the game was still very much in development and that fans should, quote, take any concerns you have like that and throw them out the window immediately. Defenestrate your concerns.
Which is so perfectly Hideki Kamiya that like it's a perfect quote. The dude's always on brand.
And then finally, the results of the Encore Splatfest are in. This was a reprise of the Ketchup versus Mayo matchup in Splatoon 2 from 2017, the very first Splatfest in Splatoon 2 history. This time, though, Ketchup won 2-1. Pro wins and popularity were the points they scored. 3 years ago, the terrible, terrible Mayo Freaks lost popularity but pulled out a win by taking the pro and normal categories. So it's great to see history write itself.
It is great to see history write itself. Although the first time was a nice underdog story, like that the Mayo Freaks were outnumbered but still won anyway. Like, I understand that's a pleasing narrative, but look, I believe in restorative justice. So it is important to me.
It's a pleasing narrative only if you imagine like the Mayo Freaks as like Rudy or the kids from Little Giants or something, right?
If you imagine Mayo as that?
Right, yeah, like from the first time, because you were saying,
yes.
Right, it's like nice for the underdog story, and like I guess it is, but also on the other hand, it's just like like the Patriots winning yet another like Super Bowl, where you're just kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, some condiments and some football teams are just evil. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. That is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. On Thursday, we are going to be ranking the Nintendo RPG characters that we boiled down from all the series last Thursday. If you would like to participate in that at all and have something to say about them, please email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. And let us know, because I'm not going to say we're flying blind on some of these, but we could use your help. Or you can tweet at us at NinCart Society. We will see it there. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, please share it wherever you share stuff. It helps us out a ton when you do. On Twitter, I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. There's also a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by Apipetti. You can get more of his music by going to apipetti.com. or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.
My name is is Will Hines, and I am a ghostwriter, meaning I write other people's books for them. And I have a podcast called I Will Write Your Book, which are recordings of my meetings with my eccentric clients, such as a woman blocked after one sentence of a children's book about her dogs, a romance novelist who dislikes sex, and a man proud of having sampled everything in his local grocery store. This podcast has been described as fully improvised, played by some of the best comedians on the planet Earth. Hey, that's pretty good. That's I Will Write Your Book on Campfire Media.
Campfire.